Hi and welcome to this tutorial of this cute coat that I made. It's made with some polyester sheets that I tried to dye, and the color didn't really get that bold, but I like it anyways. And then I used this old, just blanket that I got in the supermarket once as the back to it. So I used this glue spray to just attach the sheet to the blanket, just so it's easier to work with, so they don't move around too much, because I'm going to stitch these two pieces together. So I'm gonna have the quilt, the blanket piece, and then a layer of glue, and then the polyester sheet, and then I'm just gonna have them attached, and then I can stitch on top of them in just some random patterns that you're gonna see very soon. But first of all, it's about getting as much of the blanket covered with the glue and finding also a sheet that kind of fits in size. You can see it's not completely perfect, they don't line up that well, but they're good enough. So I'm folding it once first, and this blanket is almost square, and then I'm folding it once again, so it's got a fold at the side and a fold at the top, and 4 layers. That's it. It's lying like nicely there, and then I'm putting on a coat on top of it that I'm going to use to measure from. So I'm giving it quite a bit of seam allowance, as you can see, like a couple of centimeters, and I'm not making any slants at the shoulder point. So I'm just making the shoulders absolutely straight. So it's basically just a square where I'm just cutting this little piece off, as you can see here. So you can see where the sleeves are and where the body is. That's it. It's very, very simple, and yeah, as you saw in the photos, it's very boxy, but I really like it, and it has a cool look. So that's all the 4 layers done. It was quite hard to cut through because so thick. And then I'm just going to see where to add the neck opening. So I'm just marking here where the back neck opening is of the coat. And then I'm going to mark where the front opening is. But of course, I'm not going to cut that all the way. So I'm going to cut down through one of the layers, like one of the folds. I'm not going to cut through both of them, so be careful not to do that. I'm just cutting one of them open and then cutting down there a little bit more, so that will be the front opening of the front of the coat. Maybe you can already see how it's actually beginning to look a bit like a coat. Well, I hope you can. That was the intention. So I'm going to stitch down the sides, of course, but first I need to quilt the pieces together. And you can do them really, really carefully and make lines and, use a washable marker and make it very straight and perfect. And I actually had an idea at first that that's what I wanted to do, but then I thought that I would just go kind of at it randomly and just stitch along and see how that went. And that actually turned out to be pretty cool. And I don't have a special walking foot, like a quilting foot on my machine. It's just basically I'm just moving it around, doing it as well as I can. And this is me, trying to make a straight line with a ruler, but it doesn't work that well for me. So I give up quite quickly and just start doing random patterns and just very organic shapes. And that's also a lot of fun, both to do and to look at. So that's basically what I do. You have to do it all the way down the front and the sides and the sleeves, of course, so you have it all stitched. And now I'm just doing my serger. You can also use the zigzag stitch, but I'm just using my serger and going through all the raw edges, so everything is finished, no raw edges left, but I have a nice serger seam all the way around. And you can do that with a zigzag stitch and just make it a nice cut with your scissors instead, of course. But a serger is nice to have because it's easy and it's quick, and it's such a fun thing to just bring it through the machine, and it looks nice so instantly. And there I've just tried to also add some other pieces of fabric where there wasn't enough fabric on the sleeves, and then it's ready to stitch all the way down the sides. As you can see, it's ready to sew I'm starting at the bottom opening or the bottom side part, and then just sewing all the way up around the curve there of the under the arm, and then down to the sleeve opening. And I'm doing the same for the other side. So it's quite quick. It's a fun and quick way to make a coat like that. And because the fabric is so beautiful with that kind of washed out indigo look, it's a very distinct cute jacket. So for the neck opening, I'm going to add this piece of elastic ribbon band, like a rib, that stretches nicely and shapes along the neck opening. So it's a nice and easy way to make a cute finish. And this is a tape that already looks like that, but you can also just use some elastic, some stretchy fabric and fold it, and then use that as well. That is definitely possible. And this is just me stitching it onto the neck opening. A bit hard to see because the view is straight from the top, but afterwards I'm sure you can see it. And it has to not align at the edges, but the rib thing has to go over it. So if I'm just going to show it to you here, you can maybe see that it's kind of gets shorter and shorter towards the opening at the front, how much you can see of the actual rib of that tape, that elastic rib tape, and then it's kind of full width at the neck at the back. And that's a good way to make the ending look nice, so that the finish is a nice looking. And then I just fold it out to front, and then I'm just stitching it in place again. So I'm just stitching on the front, so the rib is folded down towards the inside, towards the back, and that just holds it in place. And it's a cute and easy way to finish something, and it looks pretty. So now we have done the neck opening, and I've made some pockets, and the pockets are just made with some embroidered pieces that I've made a lining to as well. And then I'm just going to stitch them onto the coat like that. And it's a different way to make pockets, and I wanted the pockets to be quite sturdy, so I didn't want to use just the polyester sheet fabric, and I didn't want to use any of the quilt because that would be too thick. So this piece of embroidered kind of vintage from a pillow, I think it was, just actually seemed like a really nice thing to add to the coat. It also matches well in color, and it's just, you know, cute with the birds and the botanical print that it has, or the botanical design. So that's very nice. And then what's left to finish, that's the sleeve openings and the bottom opening, and also the front of the coat. So there's not long to go here. This is just cutting off the thread at the pockets, and then they are ready to go. So what I'm going to do with the last openings of the coat, as you can see here, I've done the sleeves and I've done the front opening. So I'm just going to do the same thing that I've done on those two places at the back as well. And to show you what I'm doing, it's basically like I've been making a giant piece of bias tape that I'm going to attach to the raw edges, the open edges of the fabric. And I've done that already on the sleeves and the front opening. So just got the bottom left there, and I'm going to add the front of the fabric towards the front of the fabric of the coat, and then I'm going to stitch it in place. So I make sure that I hide any kind of padding that is showing, or any raw edges or fabric that isn't kind of completely cut straight, so I can cover it with that piece of fabric that I've added. And that piece of fabric is also made up with different pieces of fabric because I wanted some like a variety of the colors and the different nuances of the dye that I've made. So it's just a wide cut piece of fabric, and I'm almost done here. And then basically what I'm going to do, I'm just going to make sure there is a little overlap, and then I'm just going to fold that in. So again, it hides everything. So I'm going to fold it and fold it again as if it was a piece of bias tape. And then I'm going to stitch it in place. First the long stretch, and then afterwards at the end I'm going to just do those two little slanted sides. And that's also what I've done at the sleeve openings and also at the front opening. And at the front opening, you could also use a piece of bias tape. I just didn't have one that was wide enough. And because this coat is kind of boxy and it has this kind of very roomy and wide look, I also wanted these edges to also be wide for it to match the design. So that's why I chose to do it that way. And it's also just a fun way to use things that you have. Instead of having to go out and buy new bias tape, well, then you can make a piece of fabric with leftovers that you had, and also, you know, stitch them together like I did. So if you have different colors that you want to use, and then you make a long piece of fabric. So that's basically it. And that's just finishing off those last stitches. and then all the openings are done, and it looks super cool. And I love the different colorways of this coat, and I've used it a lot. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope you're inspired to make one yourself. Bye.